How y'all doing? This is Carcino, aka Kevin Davis, and yes, I am a Detroit Pistons fan. And people would ask me, why would a person born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, how could you be a Detroit Pistons fan? It doesn't make sense. It's very simple. Isiah Thomas played there. Isiah Thomas, born and raised on the west side of Chicago, K-Town. The youngest of 9 children. Larry, his older brother, was a basketball sensation. But he got caught up in the pitfalls of what was going on through the heroin and drug and pimping and all the women and Cadillacs and all this stuff. And it ruined Larry. And it robbed him of a chance to fulfill his dream. And he knew he blew it. But by then it was too late. And his little brother, who looked up to him, who followed him, tried to do everything he did, he wanted to make sure that that life wasn't for him. The basketball part of it, that's the part that he could be a part of. And this was his opportunity to make it back to the league through Isiah. And since 7th, 8th grade, here's a 5'11" guard who's about 160 pounds, just tearing through. He was still growing at this time. He was about like maybe 5'6", 5'5", and he's making basketball players look silly. 6th, 7th grade, he's destroying high schools, playgrounds. So back in those days, there was no ESPN. There was nothing but radio and a couple of channels on TV. And they didn't cover playground basketball. So the NBA games was great, but most of the NBA players were out on the courts, on the playgrounds. There was no video games. Nobody really played that. I mean, yeah, somebody might have had an Atari or something, like the very first Ataris are coming out. Isiah is on the playground all day. And if you've been in a situation where you didn't have food in the house or you couldn't eat for a while, when you play basketball, when your adrenaline's running, you're not hungry. So if there's no food in the house and you're starving, that was his alternative, to just play basketball all day and night so he wouldn't have to eat and worry about the fact that there isn't any food. And to go through this environment where the heat is off, the phone's off, the lights off, they still found a way to get Isiah to go to school to St. Rita. Not something that's in the neighborhood. He had to take a bus to a train and another bus, another 2 buses to get there. Every morning, every day, he's got to leave his neighborhood, go to this Catholic school because they had a better school and program for basketball, and he would have a better opportunity to go to a major university. And once he did that, and he won the high school championship, and obviously Isiah knew from when he stepped on the court, there wasn't another player in the same dimension as him at that time. I mean, Mark Aguirre was there, and he was looked at from DePaul University at that time. But when they played in high school, another guy that played with him, he played at Westinghouse, and that was another big school in Chicago. Eddie played with him, and he ended up going to the Phoenix Suns. But Chicago was the bread. Like, this was the biggest place for basketball, was Chicago. Doc Rivers, Terry Cummings, all of these players came out of this city. So the basketball courts were packed with players that could really play the game at a professional level. And Isiah Thomas came along, and it would be packed playgrounds. And he would challenge, like, what's his name? Maurice Cheeks, who played here in Chicago, and they'll be there, and they'll pick their 5, and they'll go against Isiah's 5, and they'll just start playing, and it'll be packed all day and night. People would just be seeing Doc Rivers battle Isiah Thomas. Doc will have his 5 they pick, Isiah will pick 5 on the court, and that's how great they were. Even if you weren't a strong player, by having Isiah or Doc on your team, they knew how to make the other teammates better and get them points and give them some easy ones because they were that good. And if you couldn't play on the playground, forget about the pros. Nowadays, you got guys going pro that never even played a playground basketball game. So he goes to the University of Indiana under Coach Bobby Knight, and Isiah Thomas had all the freedom in the world on the court. He was voted the best player in collegiate history, won a national championship, was MVP of that team, and decided it was time to go pro. There was nothing more he could have gotten from college basketball. He won a national championship. He was MVP of that game and of the playoffs. So it's time to go pro. He tried to drop in the draft on purpose because he didn't want to play for the Detroit Pistons. He wanted to play for the Chicago Bulls. He wanted to play at home. So he hoped he dropped enough in the draft so that Chicago would draft him. And Bill Davidson and everyone else, I think, was Bill there at the time? Yep, Bill was there, and he had Mike McCloskey. And he told Mike, he said, I want you to take Isiah no matter what. And that's why the interview, he said, I don't care what you do in this interview. We're drafting you. If you're available at number 2, we are drafting you. And that was it. And they drafted Isiah, and he was just like, I guess I'm going to Detroit. From his very first time in Detroit, Isiah was clearly a man amongst boys. He went up against Moses Malone, the Milwaukee Bucks, and gave him the business. And showed that he's tough. He got that West Side Street mentality. Street tough. He don't back down for nobody. He's, no matter what his height and size is, he's going to play. He didn't play against guys as tall as you, as good as you, may not be as great. Now I have been on television, but Isiah can run the basketball court the way it needs to be ran. Myself, I sit there and I watched Isiah Thomas play basketball, I believe, in 1981. I was in first grade, and I remember the whole family watching him play basketball when he won the championship game for Indiana. And then when he was a pro, they used to root for Isiah Thomas. My uncle played against Isiah Thomas and he went to Manly High School on the west side, and they won the championship, high school championship. Manly did, after Isiah and them had left. But he remembers Isiah, remember how great of a basketball player he was. Where my other family, like my uncles and stuff, they don't understand the game of basketball, so for them it's a little different. But I saw the game. Like, there's very few people that see the game. Like, Michael Jordan sees the game. Isiah sees the game. Lambeer sees the game. Some play, and when I mean see the game, and it's just like, it's different. It's like pieces on a chess or checkerboard or a chessboard, and everybody, you can control them when you have the ball, and everybody rotates and moves to the ball. So if you have the ball, you can make everyone go where you want to go. And I was able to figure out the game of basketball just by watching and observing the moves. I knew what play they were running, what set. It's people that have been watching basketball for 40 years, and all they know is my team's winning, the ball went in the net, that should have been a foul. That's all they know. They don't know what defensive set is. They still can't even explain illegal defense. They don't know anything about the sport, but yet they buy the jerseys, they buy the hats, they watch the games, they take their kids to the game. All they know is get the ball to number 3 so he can shoot. Get it to him so he can shoot. That's my boy. He can't be stopped. He better than anybody in the world. You know, that's all they know. And they're there for the show. They don't see the actual game. Guy miss a free throw, they go off. They don't realize he run 5-6 sprints back and forth up and down the court before he had got fouled and got to shoot the free throws. He's exhausted. He's trying to get his heart rate down so he can calmly make some free throws. You know, all of these things here is pieces of the game I saw that other people don't watch from an early age. So I was able to understand a lot and what was going on in pressure situations as to what to do and what play should be called, who should have the ball here, what should happen, who should be in this position at this time of the game. And I was in 3rd or 4th grade before I figured all this out. 3rd and 4th grade. I knew. That's how quickly the game came to me from a strategic standpoint on how to set up strategies. I knew. I was like, I don't even play this sport. And knew. So I'm watching the game, and in '84, there's this collegiate player in North Carolina who's coming along doing all these wonderful things with the North Carolina Tar Heels. High school career, you know, it was okay. He was pretty green, and as a rookie, he hit a big shot in a championship game that helped seal the national championship for Dean Smith, Coach Smith. And when he did that, and he was able to do that, he became an instant star. But he played on a team of all-stars who had James Worthy, Sam Perkins. They were the main, you know, contributors and game players back then. And, you know, Big Game James used to, you know, beat Michael Jordan all the time one-on-one. You know, and the thing is, Michael was learning. But the superstarness, the fame, the covers, and his athletic ability, and him being able to jump and do these amazing things, Dean Smith was trying to keep him grounded from not just breaking out, running out on his team and doing this, because you're not going to win a game that way. And that's why they never advanced to a championship under the leadership of Michael Jordan in North Carolina, which And when he left, he was about 50-50 on coming back to North Carolina. When he's getting all these individual accolades, it was like, just let Michael Jordan go, because we're not going to vie for a national championship the next year with Michael Jordan at the helm. He's going to want to shoot the ball all the time. And he's not going to trust anybody else to make the big basket. So it was like, we support your decision to go pro. So Michael Jordan goes pro. He goes to the Chicago Bulls, 5th in the draft, and one of the knocks on Jordan was that, he'll make some flashy dunks, but he needs to improve on his ball handling ability. He needs to improve on his leadership. He can score, but he could turn out to be another Orlando Woodridge, who the Bulls already has as a big scorer. So if they have Orlando Woodridge, who's their big-time scorer, how will Michael Jordan make them better? And that was the knock on him. And that's why Portland chose to pass on him, because they thought Jordan would just be a guy that just got some dunks, hit a couple of shots, and like, that's it. They really was like, we really don't see him having a long career in the NBA. They really didn't think so. And, bad decision. They really didn't see it, and a lot of people didn't see it. Michael Jordan was one of a kind player when he came into the league. And nobody really knew who Michael Jordan was. Michael Jordan had a girlfriend that drowned when he was in North Carolina. Her car, she drowned in a little puddle of water. And to this day, Michael Jordan is terrified of water because of it. He doesn't swim. He'll take a shower and stuff, but he doesn't. You won't see Michael Jordan in the pool. So, all I know is after this, moments have taken place. He started to come in the league, tear it apart. Michael Jordan is the new phenom. The Chicago Bulls is breaking out, and he had the opportunity to grow because the Bulls were so dismal at the time. Nobody was really checking him out. The NBA at that time was not as vast as it is today, of course, right? But at this time, they weren't even scraping the surface of what all the other sports were doing. Like, the NBA had come on channels like Fox 32 late at night. Nobody really cared about the Bulls. Like, they were just some big market city, but the team was just dismal. Nothing that would ever vie for a championship. If Larry Bird and Magic Johnson come into town, oh yeah, let's light him up. But here's this guy in Detroit trying to raise this team out who plays in the Silverdome of the Detroit Lions, because they couldn't even afford to have their own facility. So they got to rent out the Silverdome, and then they would barely have almost gym room number attendance from people going to see the Pistons game. They were not a big hit. They had 12,000 in attendance, maybe 10,000 people show up to see them play. Then when they had Isiah Thomas, it all changed. They're filling out 60,000, 50,000, 70,000 people are showing up to watch them in the playoffs. They're making it there, and they realize that this guy here, we got a shot with Isiah Thomas. Michael Jordan is giving the Bulls new light, and they meet and play each other for the first time. They shake each other's hands, mutual respect. They played. Pistons beat them. And everybody in his hometown, his families and friends, they all want the Bulls to win because they from Chicago. It's natural. But Isiah got to be the one to let them down every time because he's playing against them. But he would normally get cheered every time they announce his name because they say from Chicago, Illinois, and everybody starts cheering. Slowly, things started to change. Here comes the All-Star game, and Michael Jordan wears all these gold chains in the dunk contest. He had a superstar prima donna attitude in his rookie year going to this All-Star game. And he was the hottest thing in town, and he's got the mink coat, and other players frowned upon that and was like, you're trying to upstage us, young kid. You know, like, this is not, this, you're supposed to be happy to be a part of it. This isn't about you. And people thought Isiah led a movement and froze out Michael Jordan in that All-Star game. Michael Jordan took 9 shots and only hit 2. This is an All-Star game that wasn't about Michael Jordan. He shot 9 shots in an All-Star game. There's Doc Rivers, Moses Malone. There's all these athletes that are all All-Stars on this team. You're a rookie in an All-Star game, and you shot 9 shots. And you only hit 2. And people thought that Michael Jordan got froze out of the game. No. He was just a rookie. But the press created all of this. Even without social media, for all my young fans listening to this, without social media back then, the media were gods. They could play and do anything they want and position stories to go the way they wanted to go. They created this Isiah and Michael Jordan feud by saying, oh, Isiah led the charge to freeze out Michael Jordan. When there's 5 other players out there, 4 other players on the court with Isiah Thomas. And if Michael Jordan had the ball 9 times, why did he only score twice? It's like they kept him out of the game when Michael was there. Nobody froze him out. He just wasn't the biggest star in the world. So the next game they played, Michael scored 49 points, and I think the Bulls won against Detroit. And the media called that the revenge game for Michael Jordan against the Detroit Pistons. He was relentless. But at the end of the year, it meant nothing because in Chicago, that's all they had. They weren't beating Boston. They couldn't beat the Lakers. They were not contenders. They weren't better than Detroit. They weren't even better than Cleveland. And Michael Jordan was the biggest show in town, scoring all these points. When Isiah first came in the league, he was scoring like 40 points, 30-something points, 40. And they're like, okay, we're not going to win ball games with you scoring 40 points. But if you score 25 and get like 10 assists, we can win the ball games. So his mentality was 20 and 10. He said, if I get 20 and I can get everybody else involved in the game, it'll make the game a lot easier on me, and we can win the game. And that's how the games were normally played out for Isiah. He could have dominated every scoring category there was. Who could stop Isiah Thomas from scoring? Only Isiah. So, when they played the game, it got more physical and more challenging and more insane, because the next year, Isiah Thomas won MVP of the All-Star game. He had won it the year before Michael Jordan came and played in the game, and they claimed he froze him out, and the West won. Then Isiah came back with all the pressure, and that's the one you see him holding the award and his mom's crying because she was proud of him, because he had to show these guys who he was all over again for no reason. He had no reason or feel a certain way to prove to them. Prove it to them for what? Prove to them what? He's Isiah Thomas. What the hell he got to prove to them for? But it's easy to paint him as the scapegoat, and they can come through and do anything they want, the media. So they had this big game where big regular season game, showcase game for CBS, where Rick Mahorn from the Detroit Pistons played the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. First game, we win. It was rough for Mike, but we won. The Bulls are starting to improve. They're getting players like Charles Oakley, somebody on the team that can bang with Michael. So now they're feeling confident, and Jordan goes to the paper and starts telling them, "We ready for Detroit. We finally ready for Detroit." So, in 1988, well, let's go back to 86 with Isiah, because his career has always been shadowed by Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They could never get anything done because the league revolved around these two athletes. Okay, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was good, but Magic had such a personality. They could just do wonders with Magic that they could ever do with with Larry Bird. Larry was the opposite of him. He was a scorer. He was a good farm boy from Indiana. Boston was the perfect place for them. And for people who don't understand, this news is going to be real shocking to you. The NBA is, some would say, fixed. I would say, as their term, controlled. The referees implement the control of the game on who's going to win, who's going to lose. I know this is going to be shocking. You're going to get all upset and you're going to get mad. But it is what it is. And Larry Bird, there's no way on earth Larry Bird would go to Boston. Magic Johnson would go to the Lakers. They picked that to happen. Okay? So, with that being said, the Lakers and Celtics would always play in the finals, or they might move Philly in there, or they might have a game with New York or something, but the core is always gonna be Boston, Lakers. The finals. Lakers versus Celtics. The greatest rivalry in basketball, because it generated the most money for the NBA. That they didn't foresee the other cities that they had actually being productive enough to vie for championship. They didn't see the growth that was happening around the league, the attendance wise. If you don't make a certain attendance, you're not going to be put in the NBA Finals. Your attendance is crap. Why would they put you in the NBA Finals? They'll put you in the playoffs if your attendance and your numbers and your merchandising is up. They'll put you in the playoffs. Let you win a home game in front of your home crowd. One home game, and then that's it. And then you're shut off. But at least you got momentum for next season. And then you got more people coming, and if your numbers keep building up, and then, then they'll start promoting you more. You get more primetime games. And that's how the business would work. But what they were starting to see was that they had a rising superstar in Isiah Thomas. And even though his numbers, everything he did, he was trying to beat the Boston Celtics. And he beat them probably more times than they beat him. But in the playoff setting, they had to get by Boston. So that was their competition, not the Chicago Bulls. They didn't look at the Chicago Bulls as anything except for just another team in the Eastern Conference. They were never looked at as a threat to them on the basketball court. So, here comes another game in 1988 where, let's stay in 86 because this is very pivotal. Isiah Thomas backs up Dennis Rodman's statement. You probably heard it when Rodman got mad after they got eliminated by Boston and saying that if Larry Bird was just a black guy, he would just be another good player. But by Larry being white, he's like the super god of the NBA. So Isiah was just having fun, was like, if Bird was black, he'll just be another good guy, but he's just being fun with it. But the media turned it into a race issue and pounded him with the same questions over and over. They had to hold a press conference in the finals, which Isiah's not even in the finals. Bird is playing in Magic Johnson and the Lakers in the finals, and the Pistons got eliminated, and he's got to go through the humiliation of flying out to the NBA Finals, watching the game, seeing Magic doing his thing in the finals, but yet and still he's got to sit there and endure the questions about what was you saying? Are you saying the league? Is that a sarcastic So he had to do all this abuse, and really he never made the statement. He was just backing up Dennis Rodman's statement. So after this, the Pistons they had a team meeting. And if you wasn't with the program, you wasn't going to be there. But it changed. It was screw everybody. Screw the league. Screw everybody. They did us wrong. And now this season is vengeance. Everybody's going to pay. And they would come to the town and it was just instill fear. And the players, they just had a military type mentality when dealing with anything on the court. It was no more high-fiving with everybody, the other teammates, nothing. If you weren't my teammate, I didn't talk to you. I'm out here to destroy you. The game is not fun no more. It's personal. And when that happened, the whole NBA was put on alert. The Pistons was winning game based off other teams' fear. And they would execute perfection on the basketball court. You couldn't stop them. And while you thinking and I'm getting caught up in fights, they're winning games. And you're on the other end of it, losing and not knowing why or how it's happening. Michael Jordan played him in 88. Now we can go to 88. So normal play, Jordan goes up. Rick Mahorn fouls him really hard. Michael don't like it. He gets up, he wants to fight Rick Mahorn. Mahorn gets into it, and with the entire Bulls coaching staff. Doug Collins run over there and jumps up. He threw Doug over the banister. Doug got up, ran at him again. He threw Doug away again. He was fighting the entire Bulls organization. Charles Oakley tried to get up there and fight with him, and you don't want to mess with Rick Mahorn. So Mahorn was kicked out of the game. Doug Collins, I believe, was kicked out. But after the game, Michael Jordan goes to the press. And see, this is what this was like one of the first signs people saw of Michael Jordan being a scumbag. Like, people didn't know him, what he was, but I saw it. And this was the first time I started to see he was a fucking scumbag. And this is before social media. So when the player wants to get something across, they don't just have the access to just go on the news and say something. They go to the papers. They call a sports writer. They call them over and they give them an exclusive. And this writer in the Sun-Times, that Michael likes or favors to Michael, and would write stories favorable that Michael would like. Michael would call him over and be like, hey, I want you to write this down. And it says, Detroit is trying to end my career. They're trying to hurt me. Rick Mahorn was trying to end my career. And this rough play and all of this is not necessary. So once Michael Jordan put that in the newspaper, it got attention nationwide. They're trying to kill Jordan. So it was a big mess here in the city. And now Isiah Thomas, who used to get cheered here, became a villain. And in the All-Star game, Isiah Thomas helped Michael Jordan win the MVP of the All-Star game, which could have easily went to Dominique Wilkins as well. But he was the one throwing all the passes to Michael, making sure Michael looked good. And this is his hometown. And they was like, Michael took your town for you, and Isiah don't like it. Isiah don't like the way the fans just turned, but he understood that. But his goal is, I got to defeat Michael Jordan. He didn't like some of the moves that Michael Jordan was doing behind the scenes. And it led to a lot of problems. This scumbag that Michael Jordan is, once he did that, he was letting the league know they're trying to hurt me so they can go and jump on the Pistons and use his political power of going to the media and getting the newspaper and the press to get him on his side so that they can fight his battles for him and try to jump and put sanctions on the Pistons and watch them and to get the refs on his side. So they go to Detroit for the playoffs in '88. They kind of get blown out. They win one game in Detroit, and then Michael Jordan couldn't seem to fathomably bring himself to do anything else because they said Michael needed help. Well, it was the story of how it always was. He had guys out there, but when you're not trying to incorporate them into the game, and you're playing against 5 bodies out there that are clicking on all cylinders. They have guards off the bench, the microwave Vinnie Johnson, Joe Dumars. You can't do anything about it. So this is festering inside of Michael Jordan because he's angry that they can't beat Detroit. So he goes in the offseason, he tells the Bulls organization, I need players. I'm tired of losing Isiah. I'm tired of losing to the Pistons. I need some players on here that want to play. Here's a list of players I want to get. Now, they just drafted Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen in the draft. Sky and Jordan's looking like these guys can't play basketball. And I don't have time to teach them how to play basketball. I want to win right now. And I'm not going to win with these guys. But if we get the players that I want to get, and I'll take money out my budget for us to go get these players, they can learn, come off the bench a little bit, but they can learn sitting on the sidelines, watching us play on the court. And these guys here, they're ready to contend. So the league, of course, the Bulls organization ignored Michael because they're getting all this money off Michael. And they're like, well, you work for us. So we make those decisions. We don't need you to be the general manager. We'll take it in consideration, Michael. Then they'll say, oh, well, his agent told us this and that. And they didn't know Michael's already going to speak with these guys. And he's like, man, my agent said he never called him back. So Michael's upset with the Bulls organization on what's going on. And the entire 89 season, Doug Collins wanted to play him as a point guard to try to limit Michael Jordan shooting the ball all the time. This rubbed Michael Jordan the wrong way because he was forced to play a position he didn't want to play. He didn't want to be a point guard. He didn't want to try to distribute to get Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, and develop these guys into players. But it was working. By Michael being a facilitator, it put him in a better position to score, which was actually a smarter idea by letting him be the ball handler, bringing the ball up, because instead of trusting the point guard to get a ball to you where they can already set their defenses to adjust to you, when you're bringing the ball up, that's when you're the most dangerous. You have the open court. You can get by the first guy at any time, and if the defense collapses, there's an open guy. He can catch and get the ball back to you. It was a smart decision. It's the reason why you see sometimes LeBron James bring the ball up a lot. You can see the floor a lot better, even from a scoring position. But Michael didn't like it. He was like, I didn't like this. I don't like playing point guard. And that meant like him guarding Isiah Thomas and stuff like that. And it just, Michael at that point was not a point guard. He didn't see the game like they saw the game. Michael can see the game, but to him, it's about him scoring, him getting in position to score the basketball. That's all he thinks. Isiah see the court, and it's entirely different. It's entirely different. Two different perspectives on what's going on. So the playoffs happen. They get really close with Doug. Isiah beats him. Once again, the Detroit Pistons are victorious, and for the first time, really, they never really gotten along because of the rivalry. Michael Jordan is saying, like, I don't know how long I'm going to do this. I can't. This is a hump. I don't think we're putting ourselves in the right position to get over, and people seem to ignore me. So the Pistons this year win the World Championship, which really burns Chicago up because they're like, we got the best player in the world in Michael Jordan. Now this guy, Michael Jordan, Isiah Thomas has got an NBA championship. The little guy from the little city of Detroit has just, they're world champions. How did this happen? Perseverance. The league fought to keep Detroit out of the championship, out of the major spotlight. But what happened that the NBA seemed to love and notice was they were selling a lot of merchandise. When they started wearing Oakland Raiders gear, the Oakland Raiders, the NFL football team sent them, the NBA got livid and started approving their own apparel, which was Bad Boys. And they had Bad Boys flags, Bad Boys shirts, Detroit Pistons, Bad Boy. Everybody started buying them. They were the biggest sellout. They had their own stadium. They were the first NBA team with their own jet, round ball one. Everybody in the league got a jet now. They were the only ones flying like that. Because they were innovators. All they players on the team, they were a unit. Everybody knew their position. It was the greatest team ever assembled under the greatest player to ever touch a basketball, Isiah Thomas. And here comes this hateful, despiteful scumbag from Chicago Bulls, who's really from North Carolina, named Michael Jordan, who wanted to interrupt that, who wanted to destroy that because he couldn't defeat it. So the 1990 season comes around. The league has no intentions on putting the Detroit Pistons back in the NBA Finals. Everything was groomed for Jordan this year. They said, okay, Jordan, this is your year. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, they feel they're ready to take down Detroit. And everything is looking good. But there's something they forgot about. This little thing called the Jordan rules that Isiah orchestrated and came up with when thinking of how to control and deal with the likes of Michael Jordan. And this is the Jordan rules. It's R5 versus you. If Michael is bringing the ball up, you make him go left. And then you trap him. Because if he goes left, he's either going to have to pass it or shoot it from that position. If he is in the middle of the floor, the nearest guy collapse on him. And if he shoots or drives, make him go down hard. Bang him, make him tired on loose screens and picks. Hit him every time so he can be worn down by the fourth quarter. If he goes right, the nearest defender will come and collapse on him. He's not going to shoot from there. He's going to have to pass it out. And they would badger him and beat him a whole regular season. It was beautiful to watch. And the 1990 playoffs, they pushed the Pistons to 7 games. We win big in the game 7, blew them out because they didn't know how to close. Everything still revolved on Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan at this time had a position on CBS because CBS is where the NBA was based on. So at this time they hadn't renewed their contracts. So Michael Jordan's on CBS and he's telling them, he's saying, like, this may be the last time. And he was like, I might retire. No, this was on ABC News. He did that. He said, I might retire. This might be my last year. After they lost to Detroit, he said, I might play one more year. Then if we don't win it next year, I'm just going to retire. And he put that out there to let the league know, like, I'm going to leave if you guys don't fix this with Detroit. And he was really telling the Chicago Bulls, if y'all don't give me what I want to win, of the players I want, if we don't win it this year, I'm just going to retire. Because Michael had money coming in from not only Nike, he had Chevrolet, and he had Coca-Cola, and McDonald's. So his national sponsorships outweighed his NBA salary, which was about $2 million, $2.5 million a year. Can you believe that Michael Jordan was getting paid that kind of money? That's not even fathomable to what he was making in endorsements. But to be paid that from the league was embarrassing when he was the league. Now, he was a scumbag, but I do give him his credit. He did fill up stadiums, and he did perform, and he deserved to be paid a lot more than that from the Bulls organization. Now, here's the deal. When they all come together for the meetings, and they're like, okay, the Pistons won the NBA championship again. That wasn't supposed to happen. How are we going to stop Detroit? Dick Ebersol, who was working on this deal to take the NBA away from CBS and bring it to NBC where he is. Dick Ebersol is known for program directing. He hired people who made Saturday Night Live what it was in the 80s. He was one of the major players in theater and moving pieces around. And he wanted to revolve the NBA around one person, Michael Jordan. The whole sport will be revolved around Michael, and we'll make a big show of it. It's like Michael Jordan and the All-Stars. You know, and the NBA thought he was insane, but he is known for all his program directing. Like, this man is revered. So, respectfully, people have to pay attention to him, and he paid $600 million to the NBA to say bye-bye to CBS. CBS couldn't match that, and they wouldn't. And when NBC took over, it was a whole big show. The NBA on NBC. And once that cracked off, everybody's screaming up and down, all right, the NBA on NBC. And my goodness, people were jumping up, screaming. It was the biggest thing going. But while he's orchestrating this, the Bulls played every weekend on national television. So the world would see Michael Jordan play. So the 1991 or whatever, 90-91 season starts, and there's some problems. Problem number one, there are new rule changes now for the Detroit Pistons and the rest of the NBA. There's this flagrant foul rule. Now, they call a flagrant foul, that means not only do you get 2 shots, you get the ball back. And this is what Dick Ebersol wanted to do to free up the game so it wouldn't be that many fouls, so Michael Jordan can do what he wants to do on the court. And he wouldn't be stopped. People pay their money to see Michael Jordan dunk. I don't want to see him taken out of the air. That should be a flagrant foul. When Dick Ebersol, who was the programmer at NBC, it was like, what? And he's won tons of Emmys. And he's right. He helped grow the NBA into a $1 billion business with Michael Jordan being at the helm. By them putting Michael Jordan there, it set off a chain reaction to the rest of the league. He started working with David Falk, Michael Jordan's agent, and they did this Gatorade deal where they're promoting Gatorade now as one of the leading drinks of the entire NBA. And Michael Jordan is their head of the whole Be Like Mike and all this stuff. So all of this is going on. The 1991 NBA Finals come about. The Detroit Pistons are injured, battered, shouldn't have even made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They get pushed along and helped out through the first 2 rounds by the NBA. The NBA paved the way to put the Detroit Pistons in front of the Chicago Bulls again, knowing that they're battered, knowing that they're not 100%. They needed that for the story of Michael Jordan. He needs to beat Detroit in order to get there. So they sweep Detroit in a ridiculous officiated series. Game 3 was one of the worst officiated games I have ever seen in my life. It was, I swear, it was like 7 foul calls on 1 possession. They called fouls consecutively. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I said, oh my God, they writing the penalty now. The league was setting a statement saying, we want you out. We can have no mistakes here. We got to get Detroit out of here. This is the story we need. Jordan in the finals against Magic Johnson. You know, they put the Lakers, they screwed Portland the same way, put the Laker team that was completely inferior in the NBA Finals against Michael Jordan so they could have Michael versus Magic. That's what they wanted. They made theater, and you guys ate it up. Not to say it wasn't good to see the matchups and all of this, but when you ruin it, you damage the credibility of the sport and how it's governed. And then the fact that the NBA was going to enter into United States basketball, this would set off a chain reaction like a bomb. Because Isiah Thomas walked off the court with 9-some seconds left on the clock. Him and the Detroit Pistons, they get up and they leave the court. And they don't even congratulate the Chicago Bulls. And this is why they did it. The end of Game 3, Michael Jordan does an interview on the Pistons side of the field. And he berates the entire Detroit Pistons organization, the team, the league. We're tired of this type of basketball. Nobody likes this type of basketball except for him. They're not good for the sport. And they were 2-time world champions. And to disrespect them like that on their home court, on their side of the field, is very disrespectful to them, to the city. And the players took it at heart. And they chose not to congratulate Michael Jordan when they won. They just walked past him. Boston Celtics did the same thing to the Detroit Pistons. The only one that came back and actually congratulated somebody was Kevin McHale. He told Isiah, look, don't be happy to win, just go and win it. Don't be happy to be there. Go there to win it. Or like, you do it. So Kevin McHale was the only one to say, you know, hey, congratulations. Joe Dumars congratulated Michael Jordan before he left. So all the players didn't really just walk out. So doing that 4-year, $600 million deal with the NBA, it turned out to be very valuable for the NBA and the growth of the league. But during this time, they had selection processes for the United States Olympic team. Michael Jordan won the championship that year. He wanted to rest. He didn't want to play professional basketball in the summer of '92 because he's like, in the summertime is where I rest. I don't want to play basketball during the summer. So he wasn't interested in playing USA basketball. Now, Dick Armstrong was like, oh my God, if we're going to have the Olympics, and we got all the sponsorship. We need the head of the NBA. We need Michael Jordan. What are we going to do to make this work? So he's telling Michael's agents and David Falk, like, Falk, get in there. This is going to be real big money for you too. This is worldwide attention. So he wants to know who's on the team. So Russ Granite, who's president of USA Basketball. Then you have Rod Thorne, who looks like an owl, coming over there. Well, we're doing a selection process, Michael, and this is the list we got right here. These, of all the players we got like 3 lists. And he looks at the list one, which had Isiah on the team, and he didn't like that list. He's like, I'm not playing on this team. I wouldn't play for that team. And he looks at the other list that had Isiah's team name on it and said, well, these 2 I won't do. This list here I can do. I could do this one. They had Scottie Pippen on there. And not Isiah Thomas. And they had added John Stockton as the other point guard that would be in the slot of replacing Isiah. As Rod Thorne was the other person, him and Dick Ebersol, who were very opposed to Isiah and what he did. Dick Ebersol was mad because it disrupted his programming. You know, like, Isiah then walked off the court, and that's just slimy. It ruined my program. So they made the mistake of letting Michael Jordan basically be in there for a selection process, and then he can pick the team he wanted to play on. And to keep Isiah Thomas off of it, set a bad precedence for the sport. Because now you're saying this one player is bigger than the entire sport, and it's going to be a double standard for him and everybody else in the league. And other players who weren't picked that should have been there, like Dominique Wilkins, his name was on the list. Jordan lobbied to get Scottie Pippen's name on the list as well. And they removed Dominique Wilkins and brought in Scottie Pippen. Now, the argument was this list was for people who had recently been champions before or won world championships. We want the best of the best. At that time, Michael Jordan had just won his first championship. So no one had won more championships besides Magic, Bird, and Isiah. Isiah's been an all-star every... Are you kidding me? There's argument, should he have been the captain of the team, let alone on the team? And all the whispers and rumors is that Michael Jordan was the one that he didn't want Isiah on the team. Michael did this and Michael did that because he didn't like the way they walked off the court. And Michael was like, it was a collective agreement that we keep Isiah off of the USA Olympic team. But they got so much backlash from it because it was clear that Isiah Thomas belonged on the team. And it was the first time in probably his career that somebody told him, you're not better than Michael, you're not better than Magic, you're not better than Bird, you're not even better than John Stockton. And that was the greatest insult you could ever say to Isiah Thomas. And that USA selection process was it. And in 1992, 91-92 season, people were going to learn. And Isiah Thomas, when they played Utah, he destroyed John Stockton. Lit John Stockton up for 40-plus points. It was a miserable night for John Stockton. And It was a shame he had to make his statement to the NBA on John Stockton like that to show them they made a very big mistake. And they went to play John Stockton again they played against Utah again. And once again, John Stockton was going to be the butt of jokes. That's when Karl Malone made it a personal vendetta to come and hit Isiah Thomas and give him 40 stitches. And he got suspended and kicked out of the game immediately because they knew what it was. It was retaliation. Nobody was stupid. Karl Malone could play dumb. Well, all I was trying to do was give him a hard foul. Basketball is a contact. So that big dummy did that. And once he did, he opened up Pandora's box. And Michael Jordan's leading a campaign about how dirty the Pistons are and all of this. So at this point, the Pistons are breaking up. And Isiah's trying to work out in men being in charge of the players union. Isiah's trying to, mend friendships with Michael and say, look, we're getting towards the end of our careers. I don't want this to be a problem with us. Let the competitiveness be on the court. And, let's try to kill this whole thing and this noise and all of this stuff. So, as the Olympics started getting ready for USA basketball, the media couldn't let it go because it was the biggest story, the Isiah Thomas situation. So he's like, I don't want to answer any questions about Isiah Thomas stuff. I don't want to talk about it. Because Michael knew what he had did. And then 20 years later, he brings all this back up to embarrass Isiah Thomas again. And it's like, why would you even bring it up and say, okay, now I can say, yeah, it was me. I was lying all this time, but now I could come up and say it was me that blacklisted Isiah Thomas. So, Isiah Thomas does not speak to Michael Jordan like that, but it hurt him inside. If he tries to hurt, he's still going to carry. They put him on the next Dream Team, Dream Team 2, with Isiah Thomas on there. So that he can play, but it wasn't the same. He never got to play. He was injured. They made sure he got his championship ring, but the NBA has been apologizing to Isiah Thomas ever since. Michael didn't play for another Dream Team besides that one because he didn't want to play in the first place. But once they made him do it, and then they enticed him with the fact that Tony Kukoc was the European Michael Jordan, they saying he's the world's greatest player. And if you don't play in the Olympics, and they beat us, and they say Tony Kukoc is the guy, the Bulls already selected him, and they're going to bring him over once his contract is up, and he can come here in like 3-4 years. He's going to be a Chicago Bull. And they'll be saying Tony Kukoc beat the USA team. Michael Jordan chickened out and didn't want to go play for the USA basketball team. Now this guy's on the Chicago Bulls. Is he better than Michael Jordan? And he was going to have to live with that. He couldn't deal with it. So we have spent a whole hour going through this media dump. I have spent a whole hour with this because this has been a personal vendetta. Isiah Thomas has done nothing wrong, and yet he's been villainized by the NBA because of people like Dick Ebersol, Michael Jordan, and the rest of the spineless people that run the NBA. It was good money for them. It was good profit for them. But what it did was hurt the sport. You've seen Michael Jordan put in the NBA Finals all of these times because they needed Michael Jordan to be there. Once the 1998 season was over and Michael Jordan won his 6th championship, Dick Ebersol retired. Michael left, he left. So that was it. He was going over to Tom Warner and then working on some football or something. So after the Super Bowl was over, he was gone. And that was it. I mean, it's clear to see what this was. And if you can't see it, then maybe you just blind or just want to ignore it. Not to take anything away from Michael Jordan and what he did off the court. The guy is a scumbag. And he's always sandbagged other players and buddied up to referees, hanging out with referees and kicking it. And I mean, he thought, I ain't going to put his personal business out there like that. And I'm not going to make this video about that. But Michael Jordan has done a lot of dirty things behind the scenes, to me, that crippled not only his legacy, but the legacy of the NBA. Because now you see what happens to somebody when you just feed their ego. He wants to move how he wants to move, and you can't do nothing about it. And now he's out the box and you couldn't control him. He wanted to go play for Washington. You didn't want him back in the league. So then you took away all the stuff that you used to give Michael Jordan, like foul calls, anything, and Michael didn't care. Michael was like, I'm going out on my terms. I want to play. You can't tell me I can't. So you trying to put out in the media, he's ruining his legacy. No, it was his attitude, his cockiness, his being Michael Jordan that they shelved and kept you away from. You know, they kept that violent anger of competition that he has, yelling at people and all that stuff. They went ahead, bottled that up, and kept that away from the general public so you wouldn't have to see it or endure it. Now, people all know that's how, oh yeah, that's Mike. Oh yeah, that's Mike. Yeah, that's Mike. That sounds like Mike. But back then, he was the media darling. And Isiah, he's the bad assassin, the villain. Magic, oh, Magic is sweet. Look at him, he's so nice. That Magic. But Isiah, he had to be the Antichrist. A kid who come from absolutely nothing and actually do something. And I'm supposed to follow this number 23 from North Carolina, come from his mid-income family, goes to North Carolina, comes here, never had to worry about where a meal was going to come from. And I'm supposed to go behind this phony that they put in front of me and tell me he's the league and what he say go? Or am I going to go with the hometown guy who came from absolutely nothing, from the same neck of the woods I come from, and make it into something? In the land of giants, a small guy who's my height do the impossible. And I'm not going to support that. That wouldn't even be... I got to question why you not supporting. Especially if you from this city. I have to ask that question. Y'all should tell me right now, why in the world aren't you supporting that? Because for me, or to me, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't even compute. But we have spent a lot of time here together. Talking Michael Jordan and Isiah Thomas. And I hope this opened up the eyes to the public to a situation that they didn't know anything about the league being the way it is right now, controlled. And if you're like still wondering, like, is it true? Is it not true? All you have to do is look at it. LeBron James has been in the NBA Finals how many times? They're building a league around him, right? People are going to say, well, they built the league around Kobe. No, they didn't. The league was built around Shaq. They didn't want Kobe to be the face. Kobe made himself the face. He was made to be the counterpart of Shaq. Shaq and Kobe. The tag team. And he could be like Mike. He was going to be the guy. But once the case hit, he was made to be the villain. And Kobe can be the villain, and we can build him up. And now that LeBron is here, he's going to be the one to take down this evil empire of Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. But Kobe has to be a champion first. So let's put Kobe in the championship. Y'all remember when Kobe couldn't hit a shot in the NBA Finals against Boston? When Boston could have won back-to-back that year? And Kobe couldn't buy a shot in the NBA Finals, and they had to keep putting him on the free throw line because he just, for some reason, couldn't settle down and make a shot in that Game 7. And the refs bailed him out. You gotta remember stuff like that, you know? So anyway, I'm out.